Hi everyone! Today I want to show you how to work with texture brushes and PNG curtain templates. I will share a few methods that I use all the time in my work. They make my projects much easier, especially when I need to show a client very fast how a fabric and a curtain model will look on their window. I picked these PNG curtain samples, heavy curtains and a light airy sheer tulle. By the way, you can also use the sheer as a thin curtain on its own. Let me start with the sheer. If you want, you can make this template less transparent. It depends on your idea. I will leave it like this for now. Next, I add a new layer. I want to put a small net pattern on the sheer. There is a soft tulle with a very fine net. I open my texture brush set and find the fine net brush. Here it is. I choose a color, a little darker or brighter than the fabric, so the pattern is easy to see. Then, on a new layer, I draw the net without lifting my stylus from the screen. Right now, I am showing you the technique itself. The net looks big, but we can make it smaller for a finer net or bigger for a wider one. I draw with soft, smooth movements and don't lift the stylus. I fill the empty spaces. Now I change the blend mode. Some spaces are still empty, but that's okay. I am showing the idea. The blend mode changes the color of the pattern and the depth of the folds. I can make it lighter, darker, or more transparent. I will keep this one. Then I lower the opacity a little, and the sheer becomes very light and airy. But to make it look even more natural, I open Adjustments arrow, Liquify, and move up and down along the folds with soft movements. You see? I gently push the fabric, and it comes alive. The pattern starts to play. It is not flat or glued anymore. The fabric gets a real, three-dimensional shape. Now I take a curtain. I put it over the sheer and make it bigger with the same proportions. Look, the heading tape is different here, and the folds have a different shape. I add a new layer. On this curtain, I will show you how to add a nice linen texture. First, I repaint the curtain, for example, in a soft green color. I pick the color and fill it. To show the small threads of the fabric, I first go over it with a darker shade on a separate layer. Then I use the same brush with a lighter shade. After that, I move one layer just a few millimeters and merge the layers. You see, the texture is already there. I add a clipping mask, choose a blend mode, and now the curtain is not just one flat color. It is a fabric with a real texture. Before, I would just paint the curtain in one color and lose the feeling of the material. But when the client sees the fabric the way it will look in a real project, they understand it much better and make a decision faster. I really suggest you try different blend modes and find the best one for each fabric. The second curtain, again a different tape and deeper folds. I will repaint this one with a gradient. I pick the color. Done, the curtain is repainted, and now I need to add a pattern. Let's take a classic damask, a pattern we often see in classic interiors. Again, I add a new layer, put the texture on top, choose a blend mode, and, like before, I use Liquify up and down along the folds for a natural look. When you make projects all the time, this works almost automatically. Your hand knows the next step by itself. You can also lower the opacity of the pattern or make it brighter. And to add more depth in the folds, I use curves. Now the curtain looks really natural. The third curtain. First, I make it a little lighter. I add a new layer and draw an abstract pattern in a dark color. Again, a clipping mask and a blend mode. If you want the pattern sharper, duplicate the layer and merge the two layers into one. And if the curtain is thinner, more transparent, I just lower the opacity. Now I work on the curtain the same way, and it comes alive, it plays, it looks soft and real. This is just a small part of how you can work with texture brushes and curtain templates. I show everything step by step in my course. I also want to show you this, curtains on eyelets. Here the fabric is already on top. This is the first option for the client. And here, look, a different handmade heading. This is the second option. This is how you can show your clients the fabrics and the folds in a realistic way, the way they will look in their own interior. You can get my brushes and PNG templates in my online shop. I will leave the link in the description. See you next time!